Hello, and welcome to Kevin's Corner TV. My name is Kevin Horton, and I'm the editor of the Gold Coast Gazette, a weekly newspaper I started along with my mother in 1991. Over the years as editor of the Gold Coast Gazette, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of interesting people. Through this show, I hope to introduce you to some of those people. Hope you enjoy it. Corner TV. My name is Kevin Horton, and I'm with Ted Robinson, who has a show also on Cablevision, 8 p.m. Tuesday nights on Channel 115. Same channel as me.
Learning to live in the present moment, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I want to let you know that you were actually an inspiration for me to start Kevin's Corner TV.
Oh, is that right?
Because I had seen your show,
Uh-huh.
and I thought, oh, it'd be great to do this. So
Sure.
I appreciate that. I want to say that.
I'm glad you came.
Now, Ted, tell me a little bit about your show, first of all.
Well, my show is about, it's a spiritual show, actually. It's about learning to be present more often, meaning just to be. And it's kind of a strange show because most people don't know what that means. And what I do is I use emotional freedom technique to eliminate all the things that we're not. In other words, like the anxious person, the nervous person, the worried person, the hating person, the angry person. I use emotional freedom technique to rebalance the energy meridians of the body, just like acupuncture, but without needles. And that allows the person to then be who they are more. And at that point, I then teach them how to actually live in the present moment. And that means just be. And I'll explain. I'll demonstrate.
Okay.
This is it.
Okay.
But I'm not thinking about that camera or your son or anything else right now. I'm just with you. So my mind is not operating, my mind is quiet. And if you notice, my voice suddenly took a dip just now. Because I don't want to be loud and, hey, look at me. I'm just here.
Right.
And that's what I'm teaching.
And they say with that theory, you enjoy life more, that kind of thing?
Well, yeah, because you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're just here.
Right.
And when you're just here, there's no judgment, first off. You're just here in the present moment. And that's sort of joyful and pleasant, because everything is available to you.
Right. And, but that's difficult in today's society. With
Yeah,
the
it is.
iPods, this, that, computer, everything.
Yes, it is. But here's the deal. The idea of presence is to, well, the idea of the show is to ultimately get people to make that the predominant part of their lives versus all that other stuff. We tend to, as soon as you get that iPod in your hand, the iPad in your hand, and all the rest, and the iPhone in your hand, and all the rest of the stuff, it's like you see people walking around like this, almost getting hit by cars. They're not here. They're not here.
Right.
They're there, and they're here, but they're not here.
Right, right.
So that's what I'm teaching people, how to be here more. And what I discovered is when they are here, when they're really here, they really do love it. And more importantly, I did a session on somebody just the other night, and the person was very angry and hurt and resentful over corporate employment. By the time we were done, it went back to when she was a child and all kinds of other things. And when we cleared all that stuff out, she had had a pain in her heart that she didn't even realize was there. And suddenly it was gone. And suddenly she was free, and she felt lighter. That's what she reported to me the following day. That's what it's about.
Right.
Suddenly when you're free, when you're lighter, everything gets better.
Wow. So how
Sounds
do people,
good, doesn't it?
Sounds great. So how do people do that in our society nowadays?
Well, watch my show, I guess.
Right.
Is one thing. I do a group here at my center. This is our set for the center.
Right, yeah.
And every Wednesday night, I do a group here for 2 hours. And what I do is I actually have, if you notice, there's a big semicircle of chairs. And when people show up and they sit down in the chairs, I work with each person, and all the other people are working with them, supporting them, believe it or not, and getting the benefits at the same time. Because what I've discovered is people have the same issues a lot. and they don't even know it. They think they're all alone suffering. And then all of a sudden they realize somebody else has got the same exact stuff going on. And they go, wow, I didn't know that. Is that, you mean, and then the other thing is, they have like the reverse issue. So you have a woman over here who's got problems with men, you got a man over there who's got problems with women, and all of a sudden they hear the other side. And they suddenly don't feel alone anymore. Because most people feel alone. And when you realize you're never alone, that God's always there for you, Spirit's always available, things changed a lot.
Right.
I'm getting real wordy on you.
No, not at all. And being present, actually, there's a theory like, oh, time moves really fast. Like with the kids and stuff. Oh, time moves really fast.
Yeah.
But if you're in present all the time, then it doesn't really feel as it goes so fast.
Right, exactly. Time slows down because time is just an illusion of our mind anyway. And I say that most advisedly because I'm an attorney and I live by the clock, which I don't like at all. That's why I got into this area, because I was doing a lot of matrimonials at the time, divorces, and I'm a criminal defense lawyer and I do estate work. And all of those things are timed out. How many hours you put in here, how many minutes, how many was on the phone. And I just didn't want to be there. So I use this as not just an escape. I've made this my predominant, my primary, and that's the escape. And that's really what this is about. When you become fully present, it doesn't mean you're present all the time. It means that's your predominant place to be. And it's your go-to place. That's your default, so to speak. Like you have default in your printer setting?
Right.
So this is the default unless you do something else. And that's the idea of what I'm teaching. And it says learning to live. And the way I always sign off is as we learn to live in the present together. Because my attitude is I'm learning too.
Right.
Every day I'm learning. And every week I bring a new book or a new quote or a new something, and I sort of play off of that until it comes out. And I don't use my mind. I'll sometimes set up an outline, but most of the time I just go into presence and then talk at the camera. That's a real strange deal.
Now, you touch base on a little bit the fact that you're an attorney.
Yeah.
You're a defense attorney, and admittedly, a tough one.
Yeah,
right?
Admittedly, I'm well known for being very tough on trial.
So you're the spectrum. Tough attorney and spiritual person.
That's true. But I tell you, it's interesting. One of my primary mentors and teachers is Leonard Jacobson. He's out on the coast in California, and he's actually Australian. And he was a defense attorney too, strangely enough. My other one is Walter Belling. He's an attorney down in Long Beach. I don't know. I don't get it. But that's what the deal is. And I just read a book, Soul Shaping, another attorney up in Quebec, doing the same thing I'm doing. I find that attorneys who are in their heads a lot want to escape that, and this is the perfect place to do that. Oh, there's another one, Scott Killaby. He was a defense attorney out in Ohio, and he's speaking about presence and mindfulness now as well.
Wow.
So it's I'm not alone at all.
Yeah.
And I'm happy not to be alone. Quite frankly, I'm happy I'm doing all these different things that I do.
Now, you've seen the dark side of society in a way too.
Oh
right?
yeah, I've represented murderers, rapists, robbers, you name it, I've represented them. Yeah.
Right. So how do you balance that with the spirit?
Well, I remember one basic thing. I don't like their actions, but I accept the being. I have a theory that we're all souls inhabiting bodies versus bodies that have a soul. So I remember and I believe and I remember that since we are souls, we're here to experience things and learn from our experiences. Some people have to experience those bad things that we judge as bad right now to learn a lesson. Perhaps to learn what it's like to be in jail. Maybe they put somebody in jail in a prior life. I also believe in prior lives. I'm a hypnotist, and so I've done a lot of past life work with people, and even myself. And the idea of past lives one time was very alien to me, and now it's not.
Really?
And this is coming from a lawyer, mind you.
Yeah.
So no, I have actually done a lot of discovery on this, and a lot of educating of myself, and seen a lot. I mean, just experienced a lot. I've brought people into past lives, and they've said words that they had no knowledge of.
Wow.
How could they do that?
Yeah.
So it's just amazing stuff.
Wow. So past lives, what, like for example yourself?
Well, I was actually I was a Jew an old Jew, and the reason I mention Jew is, and you'll see why in a moment, in Warsaw, in Poland, in 1941, I was shot by a German Nazi lieutenant, or what do they call him now?
Right.
With a Luger.
Wow.
I had the actual experience and fell over dead, had that experience, and was the people in the group that I was with at the time buried me under a bunch of pillows, and just so happened that the lieutenant was in that group as well.
Really?
Leonard Jacobson was facilitating it. It was quite an interesting experience. One that I never, ever would have believed in the past. Never,
Right,
not in the
right.
slightest.
Right.
But, you start having these experiences and you go, wow.
Wow.
And then the other experiences was I was here at the time of Jesus. And there in the Sermon on the Mount and other things, it was just like, this can't be possible.
Right.
And there it was. These happenings just happen sometimes, and you go, can't believe it. Logically, rationally, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
But there it was.
Wow.
So, can it be imaginary? Sure. I don't discount anything.
But did you research a lot? Were you always interested in the history of the Jews and the Nazis and all that? I mean, could it be that?
No, not
You
at all.
hadn't studied that in
No,
school or something?
not at all.
Repressed memory?
I never had anything like that, no.
Really? Okay. So,
No, I wasn't brought up Jewish or anything like that.
mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm an Interfaith Minister, so I've studied all religions.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, had no interest in that at
It
all.
wasn't repressed memory, right?
No.
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 Wow.
It's really strange.
Yeah.
Never told you that before.
No.
Okay, I want to thank you for watching this week's episode of Kevin's Corner TV. I want to take a minute out to introduce you to All Saints Regional Catholic School. All Saints is going to have an open house on January 29th from 11:30 to 1:30. And I'm here with Mr. Thompson. He's the principal of ASR. Mr. Thompson, tell me a little bit about All Saints Regional Catholic School.
Well, as most of the Glen Cove residents know, All Saints Regional is a regionalized school. We service 5 parishes in the area. The actual building has been here for almost 100 years. It's the church up on the hill, so to speak. And we pride ourselves in providing a quality education to the students, to the young ladies and gentlemen in the area. It's a wonderful place to be because it's a relatively small school, and we have a closely knit family-type atmosphere. Everyone knows everyone else among the staff, among the students, and among the parents. So it allows us to really be able to work with students if they have any problems or there are situations that need to be addressed. It happens pretty quickly, immediately. So it's a great place to be.
So it's a very caring and nurturing environment for all the
Most
students.
most definitely, yes.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so the open house is January 29th.
On January 29th, we have an open house beginning at approximately 11:30. The students will go to Mass first at 10:15. Then parents are invited, our parents from the school, as well as any parents in the area who'd like to visit the school to see what our teachers are doing in the classroom. All the teachers will be here. The classrooms are open. We'll have graduates who have moved on to high schools come, and they'll be giving tours and answering questions, as well as our own students available to answer questions, and takes prospective parents on a tour of the school.
Great. Now, if parents can't make the 29th, you're always open to coming in?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. We're always open and available to give tours and talk to people about the school. That week in particular, certainly we're open, and we'll be involved in many different types of activities with the students and the staff and people in the community. So that would be an especially good time to visit the school, but any time is fine. We'll always make time to speak with and give a tour to anyone who's interested in learning about our school.
Great, thank you. All right, so remember, January 29th. Back to the show.
So tell me about your theory with the souls, that we're all souls, and...
Well, I believe that we are souls that come from spirit. In Christianity and Judaism, I guess, and others would call that heaven. But I call it simply spirit. The Tibetans call it the bardo, which is the time between lives. And there was a great movie out called Defending Your Life many years ago with Meryl Streep and somebody else, I can't think of his last name. Yeah. He was the primary guy, I should remember. Yeah. But people would come in front of They went to this place where they could eat all they want and never get full, and they had to go in front of this council. Well, I've read books on this, and I've got some insight to it, that this one hypnotist, Michael Connolly, hypnotized 20,000 people. And invariably, without being led there by him, these people went to their council. Now, the difference between defending your life and this council that he speaks of, it's not a council of judges, it's a council of counselors who say, well, Kevin, how did you do in this lifetime, this last lifetime? How do you think you accomplished the things you set out to accomplish? Did you experience what you wanted to experience? You say, well, maybe I did. Maybe I don't know. What do you think you could do next time? Better or differently? What do you think is going to be your goal for the next lifetime? And it's interesting because one man actually related that he goes in and explains, I was an entrepreneur. I maintained a factory in the middle of the Depression and kept 200 families alive during the heart of the Depression. Very proud of himself, very, philanthropic. And one of the counselors said, but what about that time at the bus stop? What do you mean, what a time at the bus stop? Well, the time when you put your hand on that woman's shoulder and said, it's going to be fine? Mm-hmm. And he went, what's that got to do with anything? Well, that was the defining moment for your entire life. Mm-hmm. When he came outside of himself, his ego needs and all the rest of it, and his self-accomplishments, and just put his hand on a woman who was crying at a bus stop. Her husband just lost the job, and she was desperate. She was despondent. And he just put his hand on her shoulder and said, it's going to be okay. Mm. Everything's going to be fine. And it lightened and brightened her entire existence. And that was the defining moment. 1 second, 2 seconds in a lifetime. See, in spirit, there is no time. So that 2 seconds was tantamount to an entire lifetime. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it's because of how it affects us within, how it affects our soul. We're giving to others. So when I read that, it affected my life. And I realized, it's not about how much you achieve, it's not how much you earn, what you own, or anything like that, or who you love. It's just about those moments of giving, sharing yourself, being present. Mm-hmm. And that's how I've gotten to this point where I believe that I'm a soul on a journey in this lifetime to have experiences and learn. Because the other thing I've learned is that the only time our souls ever expand and is through experiences here in this density of earth. In the non-density of spirit, they don't learn. They may process what they've learned, but they don't learn. They don't have experiences like they do here. Mm-hmm. So we must come down here to have new experiences, to expand our soul's experience base, and then we go back to process it afterwards and see what the counseling we come up with. It's all very, very sweet, by the way. There's no condescension, there's no judgment. These are souls, mm-hmm. souls being part of God, in my view, at different points of evolution. And when we come back to spirit, we get that opportunity to see what we've been doing, to evaluate it again, and then to come back to spirit. And then we get the choice, by the way, we get a choice as to whether or not we want to come back to this mm-hmm. lifetime. And when we do, we choose our parents who are going to give us experiences that we may not like in this lifetime, but are perfect for our soul's experience. So there's a whole other thing going on here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Shocked the hell out of you, didn't I?
Now, is there a purgatory?
No, because there's no punishment. See, that's the one thing. In most religions, in most Christian religions in particular, there's judgment, and the Bible says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Well, that's true, except for one thing. God doesn't exercise vengeance, ever. Mm-hmm. And there's no judgment. As I just did a show on this myself just recently. In fact, it's waiting to get up on air. And it said, and I told this to the woman the other day, when I was working with her. And the words are, you are my most beloved child, in whom I'm most pleased. Now just think about that. Mm-hmm. That's all God ever wants to tell us. You are my most beloved child. And, I talked about this in one of my articles, that Jesus, while I was brought up Christian, I believe that Jesus would never have said that he was the Son of God. He would say, he was too humble for that. He would say, I may be the Son of God, but then so are you. Mm-hmm. All that, and this was in the Bible, all all that I've done, each of you can do and more. I found that very interesting. That's a paraphrase, by the way. But the purpose of it was to let everybody know that when we're in presence, again, this comes back to presence, we have the capacity to do everything that Jesus did. Now that might be received wrong by a lot of Christians and people who are very religious. I don't mean to put anything down that Jesus did at all. I'm a staunch believer in Jesus as being a wonderfully evolved teacher and Messiah. But what he was trying to tell us, in my view, was that we can all do that. He was meant to be an image that we can follow, not somebody that we simply revere and pray to. But to have him say, Jesus did that? I guess I can. Not to belittle Jesus, but to take him as an example of how great we can be. So
like those bracelets that say, what would Jesus do?
Right.
Just,
and then do it.
Yeah.
Not because he is so much better, but because he was the true image of what God sees for each of us. Isn't that a hopeful message?
Very good. Very good.
And it's not a message I made up. It's just that I know that in my heart, when I'm from presence, I know that feels like the truth to me.
Right.
And it's very, very hopeful to me, because it says, first off, I am the most beloved child of God. But then again, so are you, so is he, so are we all. Wow, is that possible? Because most people walk around hating themselves, I gotta tell you.
Right.
Oh, you have no idea how many people can't say I love myself. I see it all the time. I say, yeah, even though I'm such and such and so, I love and accept myself, I can't say that. I hear this all the time.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So how many souls are there then? Are they waiting to come back down
all
again?
See, this is the
And
conscious
is
mind.
there another Earth, are you thinking?
This is
like the ancient aliens shows that are on.
This is a conscious mind at work, and I'm not trying to put you down when I say that. What I mean is that I don't know, and I don't pretend to know. I don't understand God, and I don't pretend to understand God. These are just my own concepts and theories that I've gleaned from other teachers and myself. But I can tell you that other teachers would tell you, yes, there are other planets, there are other galaxies, there are other places that we don't have a clue about. But God does. See, it's the finite mind of our conscious mind trying to understand the infinite mind of God. Can't happen. The infinite can understand the finite, but the finite can never understand the infinite. It's not big enough. Can't comprehend it. So I don't question what God does. I accept what God does in everything, and then deal with it as it is. Not saying, oh, why is it this way? I wanted it that way. Okay, God, I remember. You want it this way. Okay, I'll deal with it. And that's what presence is about. Because when I'm present, my ego's not involved anymore. And my ego is my judgment. So when you take judgment out of the situation, I wrote an article recently that said the only reason we're ever unhappy is because the judgment, the ego is not, the only reason we're unhappy is because the ego's plans have not taken over, have not occurred. So the ego is saying, I wanted it this way. I got it that way. I'm angry. I'm hurt. So it's not that way. It's just whatever is. And that's what presence is about, by the way, too.
Right. Excellent. So what about, so there's more planets, there's more galaxies. Is that what God is?
I presume.
Thinking?
No, I think God is everywhere.
Yeah.
I think God is right here, and right in that tube. I think God is everything. That's the important thing to remember. And by the way, every religion embraces this. Every religion forgets it too. If God is omnipresent, it means what? God is everywhere all the time.
Right.
So you can't escape, because whenever I ask a really devout Christian, where's God? They go, God is up in heaven. Well, okay. I'm not going to interrupt anybody else's belief system. I honor that. But my own belief is if God is omnipresent, which is the first basic thing, then how can God be any one place? God is all places, in all people. You're not separate from God if God is omnipresent. I'm not separate. This air is God. Everything is God.
Right. Wow.
That's a whole different premise, isn't it? Than we're used to. But the reality is, that's what the religions already say. It's just that nobody really listens and follows what they really say. They get caught up in icons and images and personifications of God. And I don't embrace that any longer. I was brought up as a Christian, but I don't see it that way any longer. Because I feel if God is everywhere, then certainly, that's why I said Jesus was the Son of God. But then so are you. And if you think about the crucifixion, Jesus, if Jesus was the Son of God in the way we believe, oftentimes Christians believe, then Christ could have stopped that like that. He wanted to go through that to show people, to give them the image that he needed to give them, to show them what can happen in life and how to deal with it in the Jesus way. That's how I see it.
Right.
But in reality, it's all just God. And I have this argument all the time. I go to lunch every Monday with a bunch of lawyers who are very staunch Irish Catholics, by the way. And I always point out to them that they said, well, there's evil in the world. I said, well, sure, why not? Okay, fine. But that's just the definition of judgment. It's all God. You can't escape that. Even in the Bible, they say that Lucifer was one of God's fallen angels, right? Or a fallen angel that chose the other side. You can't have duality in presence, by the way. In God, there is no duality. It's only in the mind. The mind makes this stuff up because it needs it. You can't figure out dark from light, day from night without duality.
So why is God allowing evil?
Because God doesn't see it as evil. God sees it as unconsciousness. And God would allow it. Because you're here to learn lessons again. Now you may learn a lesson by committing a crime and then having to sit in jail and contemplate that for the next 15 years. That may be the reason you came to earth as a spirit. I don't know. But I mean, I've represented people who were guilty, who went free, and innocent, who went to jail. That's made me really wonder about the whole thing. If somebody who's innocent can go to jail, where's the justice? If somebody who's guilty can go free, where's the justice?
Because it was God saying that he has to go and learn this lesson for maybe something else that he did.
In a prior life or elsewhere in this life.
But not necessarily that thing.
And I respect God's ability to determine these things on God's own. It's fine with me. Whatever happens is fine, in other words. Doesn't mean I'm not going to fight against it or do what I need to do at this level. I'm working on two different levels. This conscious level and also on a more metaphysical level.
So is he just watching over us, or he's omnipresent?
God is
he's
here,
watching, so he can't control us, though. So he can't
not control. I don't
believe
God controls us per se. I think God gave us free will for a reason, to allow us the freedom to do as we will, and to experience the outcomes of all those things, so that our soul can learn. In each lifetime, the soul comes into a lifetime, drops off some things it didn't need anymore, things that it's had from prior lives, and picks up some new things and goes back to gems. And then evolves. And I believe that the soul evolves over many lifetimes. And, there's no time in spirit. So a lifetime is, to a soul, doesn't make much difference to the soul. And whether it comes back in 10 years or 2 years or 100 years, doesn't much matter.
Right.
It's a whole different concept.
I know. Speaking of time, we're actually running out of time. You know what we should do is we'll continue recording. We'll play another episode next week's episode. So stay tuned. We're going to be back next week with Ted Robinson. Thank you for watching. See you next week.
Okay, thank you for watching this week's episode of Kevin's Corner TV. I want to remind you to tune in every Friday night at 10 p.m. on channel 115 and also on YouTube, Kevin's Corner TV. See you next week.